WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, often tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I have a Linkwood 2013, to be exact, in September 2013, distilled and bottled in December 2022. This is part, at least over here in Europe, one of the last series of the Signatory Vintage collection. Now, what do I mean by the Signatory Vintage collection? First of all, look at this little tin here. I started with whiskey 7 years ago. Back then, this was so outdated, it still is. And during the Oswaz, during the online Scotch Whisky Awards, Andre Haberecht, a new staff member at Signatory, actually announced after Signatory Vintage won the Best Independent Bottler Award, that they will now only be producing whiskeys that are unchilled filtered, 46% and natural color. Chaka, very, very good. Now this is 43%. This is natural color, but nowhere on the label does it say unchilled filtered. Now, this is Whiskybase number 226855. So this is a 9-year-old product, part of the vintage collection. And this was matured in first fill and second fill Oloroso Sherry Butts. Over here in Germany, 39 euros 90 cents. So it's a 40 euro bottle, which is fabulous for the price Lifestone. And many of my colleagues and friends that have been whiskey now for 20 some years, I'm going to use the word, grew up in their whiskey journey with these bottles. I do remember at the very beginning buying some Glenallachie, maybe even 15, 16, 17. I think there was one, even an 18-year-old vintage product from Glenallachie. Before Billy Walker took over the distillery, hardly anyone spoke about Glenallachie. They were flying so far under the radar, they were almost underground. And I had a few bottles here, and they were just interesting. And they were so, like this, so well priced and so fantastic. Now, this did come out here with a few other interesting bottlings. So we had a Whitlaw, we had a Coile, we had a Ardmore, and there was actually a Ben Nevis, and there was a Buna peated Stocia. So there were total 5 different ones. I could have done the Ben Nevis, but everything else was peated. I just steered away from that and said, hey, I want to have this one bottle to talk about this and all that's going on in Signatory Vintage. So they still will, of course, have their cask strength collection. Used to, and I think it still does, come in this nice little tin here, and then you'd have we call this the flower pot. So that would be that. So, and the other ones are, I don't even think I have a Signatory Vintage unchilled collection here. Even in my arm's length, they look a little bit just like a normal bottle here. This is something especially for Germany. This is one of the cask seasons for Kirsch, but it would be a very, very similar thing. These used to be metal, then they turned into cardboard, which I also applaud and say, yay, finally. So, do I have any? No, don't have a single one here. All right, good. What am I going to compare this to? Well, I'm going to compare this to this. Now, before you start ranting and raving and say, Jason, how can you? 43%, 43%. 40 euros, 40 euros. So this is unchilled filtered, natural color. This is natural color and maybe unchilled filtered. So, and therefore it's a fairly decent comparison whiskey, because I always like to ask the question is, if you have 40 euros burning a hole in your pocket, you're going to go out and buy a whiskey, which one would I buy first? Would I first go out and buy an independent bottler that I will probably never ever get again? Or am I going to go buy something I can go get time and time again, and then after I've been further along in my whiskey journey, then I'll go out for the independents? This is the one I would buy first if I had the 40 euros. I thoroughly enjoy the fact that this is 12 years of age. This is only 9. So I thoroughly enjoy the fact that this is Pedro Jimenez and Oloroso Sherry. And I feel every single time I drink this, there's more of a European oak in here. This is definitely American oak. It's sweet, it's vanilla. There's no chocolatey goodness going on in there at all. And so the color, basically almost the same, 43% as I mentioned, same price, so why not? All right, so I'm going to try nosing this first. Now, the thing that bothers me a lot by Signatory Vintage at the moment is that they have a lot of sherry casks, at least in my opinion, not all, but some that have a certain sulfide sulfur moment going on there. Things freshly lit matches back then. Don't think catalytic converters, don't think rotten eggs. Think about that gunpowder type of match moment. Now, Signature Vintage has over 10,000 different casks, hogsheads, butts, barrels, and so on in the warehouses. And that is amazing. And they've actually been doing this now since, if my information is correct, Andrew has been doing this now since the late 80s. So 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 30 some years already. Amazing. All right, so they've been an independent bottler. They bought Edradour. They've now doubled the capacity of Edradour, and they have a lot of good people doing a lot of good things there. So very, very, very nice. In America, it used to be called the 86 proof collection. 86 proof, and then you'd have the unchill filtered, and then you have the cask strength collection. And they have a lot of different distilleries that they can, their stock is very deep, and they have a lot of good stuff there. All right, so let's try this. Oh, in comparison, much darker, much deeper, much richer, much more of a raisin because of Pedro Jimenez is here as well as Oloroso. I do commend Signatory Vintage on actually just not writing sherry butts, but also writing first fill Oloroso sherry butts and second fill. So the thing I would like to know is often they used to do with the vintage collection, they'd put two sister casks. So cask number 1145 and 1146. Here we don't have that information. I don't know, at least on the bottle there's no information or anywhere else online, if this is a 200 bottle batch release. Is it maybe a 2,000 bottle batch release? Is it a 20,000 bottle batch release? I do think there was a larger batch release than we've used to in the past. But hey, there's going to be a lot of people out there. At least over here in Germany, they all the different shops said discontinued. Collect now because it's no longer available in the future. And it was all this uproar about them discontinuing something, but actually they have now premiumized, wow, I can't say that word at all, to make something more premiumizing the product here and making it actually an authentic malt that we want, like Ralphie has been talking about now for almost 20 some years. Yeah, 46% unchilled filtered and natural color always. All their products will be that, and I applaud them and I commend them and I thank them for that. All right, cheers. Two of my fears have been actually confirmed. Fear number one, yes, there's sulfur in here. There's sulfites. I am very sensitive at the moment to sulfur, and it's in there. It's not bothering me that I can't drink it, but it does take away from that experience a lot. The second thing that I really was thinking about, wait a second, this is 9 years old and it was first fill and second fill sherry butts. Butts are 500-liter containers, big barrels. And usually when I'm at a distillery over in Germany, we love actually finishing in quarter casks, sherry casks. They take barrels and the cooper actually puts them in the tiny little quarter cask. Then we put the whiskey in there for 6 to 12 months. Ta-da! Great, great, great stuff. But for only 9 years, that's not very long. It does get the additive maturation, but it doesn't got the subtractive maturation. What do I mean? The longer the whiskey is in the barrel, the more that whiskey becomes a little bit smoother. I hate the word as well, but also the edges have been polished. and a lot of that that ginger sharpness is goes away with time. And this just does not have enough time to actually get rid of that heat that is there. Um, there is no law in America. There is a law in America, 62.5% for bourbon and for other straight spirits, that we can put our spirits in the cask. In Scotland, no. So they go 63.5, which is a little bit higher, so they actually get stuff out, and which is really amazing because a sherry cask had a product in there with 22%. So they have to go in at least 40. And so what they're doing is they're often going above 63%, 68, up to 70, 72%. And so if you have a product that's 70 some percent, you have to water it down to 43. You're adding a lot of water to this product. And the sweetness comes through, the fruitiness comes through. Think not yet perfectly matured ripe strawberries. Think raspberries. Think red currants. Think a little bit of a tartness, but a sweetness as well, a fruitiness. And then it's not that much of a complexity. There's vanilla, there's a little bit of heat, and that's about it. But this is actually exactly what the Signatory Vintage is going for, a beginner's whiskey. It's actually, this is the competition, basically, a 12-year-old Glendronach, not the 15, not the 18, not the 21. This is what they're looking at. So you bought one or two of these. You bought the Balvenie Double Wood. You bought some other interesting bottles, and you say, hey, I've heard all my life that independent bottler are great. The cask strength collection is just way out of your league with hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But for 40 euros, I think, oh, and a Linkwood. Where can I buy a Linkwood out there for 40 euros? I'm going to say nowhere unless you buy it from Signatory Vintage. Now, the fact is that you're not going to get that much Linkwood distillery character out of a first and second fill Oloroso Sherry Butt, but you're going to get an interesting product. And this is a solid C, despite the complaints of the little bit of the heat and a little bit of the sulfur. This is a solid C. This is something I could give to my friends and recommend and say that. And I'm actually going to give this a C plus for value for money. I really, really think the Signatory Vintage is doing a great job of getting interesting, fantastic products out there for a good price into the market. And I can honestly say, I don't think there's anywhere else you can get a similarly priced product. Now, the prices have been going up the last couple of years, and Signatory Vintage prices have gone up as well. But here for the 40, and even the Ben Nevis and the Ardmore and the Bunne Stosche, the Whitlaw, which was the Highland Park, even those for almost all under 50 euros for interesting products up to 15 years of age. Very, very well done. So, C, value for money, C plus over here. More richness, more dark fruits, plums, raisins, which I don't get here, Pedro Jimenez, and the European oak. A touch of that European oak is just fabulous. Here it's all vanilla, it's all American oak in there, but also a very interesting product. So my question is, you have $40, 40 euros, 40 pounds, burning a hole in your pocket, and you want to buy a aged product with sherry influence from Scotland. What do? I would go for the Glendronach. Friends of mine would go for the Linkwood. What else can you recommend for 40 euros that you would buy instead? Thank you very much for watching, liking, subscribing, telling others, and sharing. WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of American, often tasting rare and exotic whiskeys, and there's always a little bit of background information, tasting notes, and recommendations with a review as in the point scale of what do I think about the taste, as well as the value for money. All the best. Bye-bye.